And now let me turn the floor over to Ambassador Joseph DeTrani. Joe?
Thank you, Ambassador. Great presentations. I'm not sure I could add anything to these excellent comments, but let me just sort of try to summarize some of the points that have been made. I've spent a number of years working on the North Korea nuclear issue, and I can tell you there are significant differences. Although we read in the papers a good deal about maybe this could be used with North Korea, we never spoke about halting their program. We spoke about dismantling their program. And we spoke about dismantlement that would be irreversible. Comprehensive, verifiable, irreversible dismantlement of their nuclear program. This is not the case with Iran. With Iran, we're talking about, with the agreement that we have on the table, we're talking about halting their program so that within 10 or 15 years, they can then pursue an industrial-sized centrifuge, uranium centrifuge capability, where they could be enriching uranium at a significant level. And again, the cover for that would be for peaceful use, you would need significant number of centrifuges. So we're looking at the likelihood that after 10 to 15 years, there will be no restraints on Iran racing to acquire that sort of capability, enrichment capability. And I might add, the centrifuges that would be used then would not be the IR-1s that are being used now. They would be sophisticated centrifuges, faster, so they could race to, if indeed they're moving in that direction, to a nuclear weapon. A lot was mentioned, certainly the Congressman Poe, Congressman Sherman mentioned, and Mike just a minute ago, countries in the region are just not going to sit there. What we have with this agreement is we're telling Iran, you're a threshold nuclear weapon state. Wait 10, 15 years, and then hopefully there will be transformation. If there's not, and you go towards a nuclear weapon, that's the reality. That's a stark message to our allies in Saudi Arabia, certainly to Egypt, to Turkey, and to others, of seeking a threshold capability. What does that do to the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty regime? What does that do to the security? This is not something that would lend itself to a more secure nuclear environment. We talked a little about managed access. With this agreement, we're talking about within 24 days that Iran would have to make itself available for inspections of non-declared suspect facilities. Well, that number of 24 days is very, very, very loose because it involves a lot of negotiations, a lot of discussions, but so much can be done in 24 days because we did start this process, and Mike, you mentioned it, as unfettered access. This is what we've always told the North Koreans also. Anytime, anywhere, the inspectors would have access. And if you're not hiding anything, you would not be opposed to it and so forth. And we're talking now about managed access, and there's a lot to be done looking at this and what they could be doing. And I think we've seen a lot of this already on the issue of Parchin. This is a facility that the IAEA has told the world, and this is the Director General Amano and his biannual reports to the Board of Directors, that the IAEA was never given access to Parchin, that there was a lot of obfuscation going on, and the sense is that they were doing things. High explosive tests, working on trigger for nuclear weapons. And this is the whole question of weaponization. And of course, now we're hearing about separate little sidebar agreements or amendments that are classified and only available to the IAEA that speak about possibly Parchin, possibly a weaponization, possibly and most likely about what North Korea has done on the weaponization issue and with regards to high explosive tests and other things. You know, part of any agreement, when you're looking at monitoring and verification, it's not only getting into facilities that are declared and also having access to non-declared suspect facilities, but it's having access to documents, having access to technicians and to scientists. It's being able to take samples and to take those samples out of the country so they could be tested. This is sort of a very routine, I think, IAEA or any monitoring verification protocol. These are things that are necessary. This needs to be articulated so that we're clear, as the American public is clear, certainly the Congress is clear, as to what in this case, Iran is committed to doing with respect to these issues. And Parchin is on that. let me just say, you mentioned ballistic missiles. You know, on the whole question of ballistic missiles, Iran is the largest and most advanced missile developed country in the region in the Middle East. What they have done with, and a lot of that is working with North Korea, what they have done with the Shahab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're talking up to 2,000 kilometers of capabilities. They are working on an ICBM capability. And the assessment is possibly in the year 2020, a few years after that, they would have a capability of 9,000 kilometers. That touches the United States, ladies and gentlemen. These are long-range, solid-fuel missiles. We should be very much aware of their ballistic missile program because, as was said by the congressman, by Mike and others, why would you have such a capability if the intent wasn't to deliver something? So this is also very, very important. And it was also mentioned about Iran's Revolutionary Guard Command. How could we be oblivious to what is not only going on with human rights inside Iran, which is horrific, but what they're doing in the region? The Quds forces, what they're doing in the regions, with the Shia, if you will, the Shia militias in Iraq, what they're doing in Yemen with the Houthis and so forth. Support to terrorism, Hezbollah, Hamas, what they're saying about the United States, what they're saying about wiping out Israel and so forth. These are the realities of it. So in a comprehensive way, there is so much on the table that needs to be articulated. But I make this point, and we've made this point on North Korea very clearly, and occasionally we've published on this. This needs to be made clear to the American public. This should not be a sidebar that's not available to the public, so we're not sure what the agreement was. It should be transparent because it touches the security of this country and the security of our allies and partners in the region and globally. So thank you for having this session this morning, and I commend the Congress for doing significant due diligence on making these issues available to the American public. Thank you.